Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Civic Center Commission meeting of May 3rd, 2022. We welcome everybody, both that are online and the public. Appreciate you coming. First thing we'll do today is look over our minutes from our last meeting and ask anybody if there's a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved, Ellis.
And a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on those minutes? Doesn't appear so. We can vote to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hand, it would be helpful. Aye. Disapprove, nay. It is passed. Thank you. We are going to hear from our friend from City Council, Antoinette.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you. Once again, a brief update. We had the pleasure of, I had the pleasure last night of attending the promotion ceremony for Asheville firefighters. It was held in Thomas Wolfe Auditorium. It was particularly great to see people in person because from what I understand prior to my joining, this was the first promotion ceremony since before the pandemic. It was a great evening. Awards and promotions were great. Also keeping in mind that the City Council will continue to hold our budget work sessions, other work sessions, as well as City Council meetings in the banquet hall, which kind of brings me into a topic that I believe will be of particular interest to you. We're in the midst of our budgeting season. And in our last work session, it was revealed that the staff is recommending the improvement for the municipal golf course. I'm particularly excited about that. I believe, Don and I were already talking about the plethora of information that Mr. Matthew Bacote gave to me regarding the Skyview Golfers Association. And my understanding is that he has also had meetings with Deborah Campbell, the city manager. So it is my hope that council will be including in our TDA request for funding for the municipal golf course. And that's what I have for you today.
That's fabulous. Do you have any idea if they're what that amount might be or guess?
So I don't want to get ahead of my skis.
Okay.
I believe Chris is going to probably talk about that later in the meeting, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
I believe the request total is around $2 million, right, Chris?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I don't know yet if that's going to be the ask or if there's going to be an ask. It is my hope that that's the route that we go, though. I will say that just as an individual council member.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate the fact that you took our request forward. Couldn't have done it without you, frankly. So thanks. Next, Demp, are you here?
He should be. He was just texting with me a minute ago. I'll text him and see if he'll pop on, but we can skip him for now.
Okay. And the CVB update is in your agenda that was submitted by Marshall, who was unable to attend today, but their volume has increased. They had 86 total leads with 17,661 room nights. The lead volume was 86 leads with the potential, in 2019, they had 23,584 room nights, prior to the pandemic. April activities are double meeting incentives that they're promoting to help qualified meeting planners with an incentive base to come meet in Asheville. They attended an outdoor economic conference in Cherokee. They participated in a downtown cleanup put on by Asheville Greenworks. Marshall himself presented at Appalachian State to a management class on destination management. And they are also at the tail end of their budgeting planning for the upcoming fiscal year. That's his report. Daniel, would you like to talk about the symphony?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. So just a quick update from Asheville Symphony. We are nearing the end of our season. Only 2 full orchestral programs left and 1 program on our new chamber orchestra series, Alt ASO. We're sort of traveling around the community. Just had a really successful concert at the Orange Peel last week on that series, and the final one is at the Asheville Art Museum in June. So ticket sales in general are trending pretty strong. Single tickets continue to trend ahead of pre-COVID years on average. Subscriptions are still trending behind. None of that is surprising considering subscription renewals were happening last year when we were still in the thick of COVID and Delta, all of those variants. So all of that makes sense, and it's encouraging to me that single tickets continue to be above par and that we're recruiting quite a few number of new attendees to the symphony. In terms of COVID precautions, you all know we have dropped our vax testing at the same time that Harris Cherokee Center was unable to continue offering the testing on site. No pushback there, which is great. We are still keeping masks at our events, and we have decided to continue that through the end of the year since we only have, and by the end of the year, I mean our fiscal year and our season, since there's only 1 concert left in June at Harris Cherokee Center. So we'll continue that up just for consistency through the rest of the season. That Alt ASO series that I mentioned, the chamber orchestra series, has been super successful. We've sold out all 3 concerts on that series well in advance of the events themselves, which is great. And 60% of those attendees are first-time ticket buyers for us, which is exactly what we wanted, bringing in a new demographic and a new audience. So we'll be expanding that series next year to 4 concerts. We're going to grow our Masterwork series back up to the 7 concerts that we used to have pre-COVID, but we're still retaining our Symphony in the Park extravaganza in fall, and we're also bringing back the Amadeus Festival in addition to the 4 new Alt ASO concerts. So it's going to be a big year. Next year is the bottom line. We're really excited about it. We're also in the tail end of our budgeting process along with the CBB, and we're planning on announcing our season for next year in late May. It's going to be a very exciting one. That's this month, man.
Well, I was going to say, in the next 3 weeks.
Right. That's right. But it's exciting. That's my update. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from anyone? I've been so impressed with all the different venues you've been going to and bringing
Thank you.
music out and into unusual venues, and even people that I tend to see have been impressed. Even though but my question is, have you, because of those venues, been able to bring along more younger listeners? And
yeah, in a couple of ways, yes. So that series that I mentioned, the Alt ASO one, where we were at Highland Brewing and then at the Orange Peel, the audience is, as I mentioned, 60% new attendees. So it's definitely a new demographic for us, and especially at Highland, trended far younger than our traditional audience. So yes, we're being successful in that arena. At our Masterwork series, we have forged some strategic alliances with co-working organizations or community organizing organizations, such as Different World and Hatchworks and other collab co-working spaces, in order to try and encourage a younger demographic to get into the concert hall. And we have seen some success there. It's not like we're transforming the concert hall overnight, but we're starting to make progress. And I know our peer institutions like the Wortham, they have been doing the same thing and trying to make the same kind of investment and stride. And I think they're seeing some success. I think there is a young, affluent class of individuals that have moved into Asheville in the last couple of years, and they're from New York, Chicago, wherever. They're excited to get involved and see what the arts and culture scene has to offer in particular. So I think they are interested in being developed as patrons and as believers in the mission of the arts here.
That's great. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. We'll turn to our manager, Chris Corral, and for his reports.
Hey, everybody. So quick and easy one first is our upcoming events. So we are, our season's winding down at this point. Once we got through Saturday's one canceled concert and two, the arena concert with Krungbin that did happen. We're over for large arena concerts, and we're down to just Thomas Wolfe size concerts and some other pickle or spread in events like graduations. So we're Thursday this week we have Tom Segura, a comic who is sold out 3 nights of dance in the theater, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Next week, we have Daughtry in the theater on Tuesday at the same time that we have City Council up in the banquet hall. Followed up with the weekend, AB Tech's graduation, Chicago, May 15th, Kenny G on May 20th. AC Reynolds High School Band is doing their Memorial Day concert here on the 24th. And then Little Feet in the house on May 26th. June wraps up with the last symphony concert, like Daniel already mentioned. High school graduations, and then we get into a whole lot of meetings and smaller events for the summer season while most events go outdoors. So we're getting ready to get into what we know as project season here, painting, fixing doors, all that fun stuff. Any questions on upcoming events? No? All right. So Tourism Product Development Fund 2022 grant applications that Councilmember Mosley alluded to a moment ago. So I'll speak about Asheville Muni Golf Course and our plans there, and then Chris Gentile's on the call to speak about a project at the WNC Nature Center that we're looking at. And so just so the group knows for both of these, no formal presentation, if you will, but we are looking for either a vote of support or not support for the project that we can take back to council and say, hey, yes, our commission did support this project, or no, they didn't. Generally for the Asheville Municipal Golf Course, we're actually going in assuming that only $1 million is going to be approved from the city side. If council does go higher, we'll start with a higher match, but the Product Development Fund only matches actual like bricks and mortars, so not design fees and permitting. So we'd have a city side $1 million budget and have a grant request of around $900,000. We'd get down to the actual nickels and dimes when we put the application together. But for a total goal project of 1.9 million towards stormwater improvements, which we went through with this group a couple months ago, the needs there, and figuring out with the new operator what the best plan of action is. If we don't have enough money to fix all the stormwater, do we target 4 or 5 holes? Do we target 9 holes? Close the front 9, close the back 9? In my mind, I feel like we do it right in the first 4 or 5 holes, and like you show people what can be done, and then try to snowball that money and keep it going. But we'd be going in with a $1 million city match request for $900,000 to the TDA. We've hired somebody to assist us with our grant writing. She's going to hopefully do a great job for us. And it feels like an easy sell at the golf course. There's 45% of our current players are already out of market. That's 41,600 starts a year on average. So that's a pretty good figure of players that are coming from out of market that tie to the TDA, but also the history and the story of that course. It's the first public golf course in North Carolina, if you weren't aware. It's the first integrated golf course in the Southeast as well. It's home of the Skyview tournament. It has so many stories that are so very sellable for marketing to bring people in from out of town to stay one more day to play the course. So we feel really good about it. Now it's just a matter of how we put the grant application together through phase 1, hopefully get invited to phase 2, and then move through there. Timeline, or Applications open, I want to say on Thursday or Friday this week. They're due by June 1st for the phase 1 portion of the application, which is just a short 4 or 5 page application where we put the details, but not like the nitty gritty in there. If we get invited back for phase 2, that happens this summer, where we put together the full grant application, which in the past has been, like a binder, 40, 50 pages worth of information and data, etc. The product development fund committee would then review that, and we hopefully would be, well, I know we'd be invited for presentations where we could go to the board and then present what our project is, why we think it's worthy, and then hopefully it's voted on and approved. And approvals happen in October. I want to say October 1st off the top of my head, but we wouldn't know if we actually received TDA money or grant matching monies until October. But that's the general timeline, just a real brief overview of it. But really the goal is, how can we make the most out of our money? And if we have $1 million, if there's a way to double it, we should take advantage of it, right? And the TDA is a great opportunity for that. I'm sure there's questions about the Muni Golf project. What do we have? Yvonne. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted, Vaughn.
Thank you. As you know, Chris, that we have been looking at that golf course issue since you have taken on that as part of our list to watch and oversee. And we have taken great interest in that as a commission. So what is our timeline for the commission to make that recommendation to City Council?
Ideally today, but if not, that's fine. We can go back in June and talk about it more in depth in June. But we have to have our applications in by June 1st. So we'll be approaching council for information about the product development fund prior to that. And we know that the budget won't be approved by City Council until nearly June 30th this year with how the timeline works. So we'll be putting our funds on that application as pending $1 million. Because if we don't have the money, we'll have to pull our application out if it doesn't get approved, for example.
Again, what is the procedure for this commission to support that? Do we do it today?
Ideally, yes. And so the procedure would just be after discussion. If we want to take a vote of approval, somebody would make a motion, somebody would second, and we'd vote.
Well, then in that case, I will make the motion to support your proposal to the City Council from the Civic Center Commission.
Okay. Is there other discussion first? Any other questions?
Well, Christy, you just have this one. Don't you have two?
We do have two. So we could do it as both, or we could do them separately as far as a motion.
My preference would be to hear on both first.
Okay.
And then
Yep.
back.
Right.
Okay.
Any
Chris,
other
you wanna-
questions on Muni before we pass to Chris Gentile about the Nature Center?
Yeah, maybe Chris, one question. Will we know any more a month from now versus what we know right now? If not,
About what, John?
about the Muni project, if we don't know any more in June than we know now, then I'd be more inclined to vote on it now, just to have it done.
Realistically, we won't know too much more. Mid-June to July is when we realistically would be contracting with the new operator, just with how the timeline's falling. And really, we need to lean on them pretty hard on what the best path is for the design of that project based on the money that we have available. We can get enough information on the general project scope to put in that first phase application, but to get really detailed, we're going to need their input and their help. Not necessarily that we can't do it, but more that they're going to help guide us into how we can operate in such a way that we don't start losing too much money while we're doing the project, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
The new contract with the provider, did you negotiate that? And then is that complete?
It's not complete yet. Currently working through that with them. We had 9 operators submit interest initially. We're down to 5 that are still interested. I'd say 3 that are viable at the moment.
Is the commission going to have input on that?
Yes. Yeah. So it'll come here before it goes to council, which likely will be June meeting.
Okay. So any resolution, and John brought up there's two projects that we're looking at, is that correct?
Yes, there's also a project that we're looking at that affects this, that comes through this board, that is at the WNC Nature Center, that Chris Gentile can speak to.
Okay.
All right, I guess, Chris, you want to?
I have a motion on the floor and it hasn't been seconded, so do you want me to withdraw the motion, John, and wait and we'll put them together?
That was my thinking, Yvonne.
Yep.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion until we can put them together.
Okay. I guess, Chris Gentile, do you want to talk to us about that wonderful project you guys have been working on?
Absolutely. And first of all, thanks. It's good to see everyone. And thanks for adopting us as kind of the newbies in the entertainment department. As many of you know, we were part of Parks and Rec for my first 13 years here in the city. And under Chris's guidance so far, we've been really making some tremendous headway. So, and it's nice to be part of this commission and have some input from the public on some of the things that we're planning to do here at the Nature Center. So just to kind of kick it off, for the past 2 years, we've been working on a plan to add a butterfly exhibit here at the Nature Center. And the Friends of the Nature Center, which is our 501c3 support group, has already raised several $100,000 for that project. So we had started the design on that right before COVID and got pretty far into the design. And we went out and put that first design, which was a 50% construction drawing, out to bid for price through a cost estimator, a professional cost estimator, and found out that that project would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $650,000, which we've raised either through the city or through the Friends right now. But when we met with Jade Dundas and Chris, obviously Jade from Capital Projects and Chris, who we just heard from, we decided that this was a perfect opportunity for us to go to TDA to expand that pie a little bit, because there's some other capital infrastructure upgrades that we would love to make here at the Nature Center that would really enhance the front entrance experience. And just to give you a brief overview, back in 2018, we opened a new front entrance, $1.35 million front entrance, new parking, amenities, restrooms, things like that, that was funded in part by the TDA. So over that time, from 2018 to now, we've seen our attendance go up by about 50,000 people. So we were good stewards of the TDA money. We kept really good records of the heads and heads, shall we say, the people that came to our community as a result of the new entrance. And we feel like this is time for us to go back with a project that we know is only going to enhance the attendance here at the Nature Center, both locally and from out of town market. So what I'd like to do is just share my screen quick. I don't have much to show in the way of visuals, but I do want to kind of give you an overview. For those of you that have been to the Nature Center before, I want to just kind of show you that this is kind of a bird's eye view right now of the area that we're going to be talking about. So over on this side here where my cursor is, this is what was done back in 2018. We added a new ticketing gift shop area. We have a whole new parking area in here, which you can just see on the right here, with a drop-off circle, which is crucial for folks with mobility issues and for families that just want to drop off their family without parking and bringing everybody up. This is an excellent entrance queue that we currently have. On this side, at the time, we didn't have the money to do exactly what we wanted to do. So we decided to leave that as a storage area for supplies, hay and things like that. It's off exhibit to the public, but it's something that we wanted to keep a placeholder in for what our long range plans were. We also added new restrooms for the guests, since our new entrance was a completely different location than our old entrance used to be. We needed some guest services amenities to take care of people's needs when they first came in. So what we didn't focus on was what we'll call the west side of the entrance experience, the west side of the barn. And this is how it currently looks today. We have an old farmyard area here. We have an old crumbling, basically backup building that used to be the Elephant House back in the 40s. up until 1984 when our elephant passed away. And then we have up on this second tier here, a beautiful historic cabin, kind of some lawn here, picnic tables. We've created a deck on top of the elephant house so people could look over. But it's kind of an anticlimactic experience, if you will, from when you enter into this lovely gathering area and then start your journey and you come to an area that's been around since the early 80s. So it's always been our plan and our long-range plan that City Council adopted back in 2010 to create an entire plaza, if you will, entrance experience that could not only be used for our 180,000 guests that visit us every year, but also expand our after-hours programming, rental opportunities, large-scale events that we could hold, things like that, community events. And we don't really have a place for that right now because that entrance plaza is designed for exactly what we're using it for, kind of an entrance queue and an entrance orientation plaza. So what we're proposing, and I'll share this slide with you, what we're proposing to the TDA is to take that front entrance that I just showed you that was upgraded in 2018 and add all these elements on the other side that'll get to some of those key points that I just described. So using that side area here and really focusing on butterflies and native pollinators, we'll add several enhancements to that side of the barn, which would include play features like a chrysalid swing that people could sit in and a caterpillar play feature. Also a live element, a seasonal butterfly exhibit where we could bring in chrysalids and show people local butterfly species here in that area. But in addition to that, and that, as I mentioned before, that was the first phase that we had looked at before we decided to enhance it and go for TDA funding. In addition to that, we would like to pull our farm area more up against that hill, take out that old elephant house, which is a crumbling infrastructure that we'd like to remove, add bigger paddocks for the goats and sheep, a specific yard for our donkeys, which is requires a little bit different care than the other hoofstock have, but really open up this plaza to make this a true event space so that when people visit the nature center or when they have an event or even a day visit, this is the grand entrance that they will then have to visit and to kind of set up their experience for the rest of the nature center visit. This is a beautiful view into the bear exhibit right here. This is a beautiful view up the hill towards this historic cabin and that lawn that's there. So our goal is to create a very visual and striking entrance experience that makes people feel grounded in Southern Appalachia, which is really what we're after here at the Nature Center. In addition to that, we would really like to, and when we put in that new gift shop, it's only about 250 square feet. We thought that would serve our needs because at the time we were only seeing about 120, 130,000 guests. Now we're up well over 180,000 and that number's climbing. We would like to take that hay storage out, which we initially put in as a placeholder, and build the gift shop that we initially really wanted to have in place. So just to explain why the gift shop is an important element for us. Our friends in the Nature Center, we have a memorandum of understanding through the city with them, and we also contract with them to run our gift shop operations. The city isn't in the business necessarily of running a gift shop, so the friends are in a much better position to be able to do that. And we get 20% of all the net proceeds from the gift shop. So as we expand the selling floor, we can kind of make a direct correlation of how much more that would come back to us. And that's something that the Nature Center uses for all their capital enhancements. So whether it's a new animal exhibit or a new building or replacing a sidewalk, things like that, we've set up our own capital account so that we don't have to tax city council with that. And we don't have to get in line behind all the other facilities that may not have a revenue source to be able to make their upgrades. So that's very important to us so that we continue to raise the money that we then put back into the site. So that package right now would be about a $1.2 million package. We already have about $650,000 in hand from various sources, from the Friends of the Nature Center, earned revenues, capital revenues, and some city money that was put aside. So it's our intent to go to the TDA to seek the other $540,000-ish that we need to make this a reality. If the project doesn't go through TDA and it isn't funded, we will still take the money that we have and try to do, or definitely do the butterfly enhancement that we talked about. But that would leave all this other elements here that we, according to our long range plan, want to revisit in the future date. So we felt like this was the perfect time. As I mentioned earlier, we've been really good stewards of TDA money. We've shown a lot of progress based on their goals and you know, things that they'd like to see, their benchmarks that they'd like to see a facility that receives funding provide. And it really fits in well with our operation and what the city has asked us to do, and that's to expand to new audiences and to look for different ways to expand the Nature Center offering for everyone. So it's exciting. The Nature Center is a phenomenal place, and obviously many of you know that because that's why you're here in Asheville and you visited us. But this gives us a chance to really make that grand entrance and that wonderful experience that we had always anticipated when we did that first phase. I estimate that by adding this, we'll probably see about a 7 to 8% increase in attendance, just looking at other facilities that have done something like this. But more importantly, we'll be able to open our doors to after hours events on a much larger scale. So we'll be using the Nature Center more, not just during the times we're open to the guests, but also to unique audiences that might want to hold special events or community parties or things like that after hours. And since we have to operate the Nature Center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week anyways, because we have animals here to care for, it would be nice to figure out ways to expand the time that we can serve our communities. So that's really all I have for you. I will stop presenting so you could see me again. And if anybody has any questions specifically, I'll be happy to answer them. But thank you for your opportunity for me to present here today, and obviously to answer any questions that you might have about this project going forward.
That's a pretty amazing project, and how well thought out it is to grow, you know, each and every area and take advantage of your growth, especially taking advantage of an event space that can be used at night. That's, you know, and you have the advantage of being a 501c3.
Thank you, Donna. Well, our 501c3 group that supports us is instrumental to our success. So obviously City Council and City of Asheville has provided us with the resources we needed to get to a great point. And now we can get even further with something like this.
Chris, I have a general question regarding city process. Assuming that the commission endorses both of these projects, how is there a process within the city to decide which projects are allowed to approach, or is it a free-for-all?
There is a process now. There has not been in the past, which I'm sure is why you're asking that question. So no, we've narrowed it down to a list of 4 priority projects that Deborah is going to be working with council on. And these are just the 2 that are connected to our department. There's a Greenway project and a streetscape project that are also in the works that we may potentially go into TDA to request funds for.
So do I hear you correctly, assuming we, you know, advance these are already priority?
Yes.
Project?
In the list of priorities, I believe Muni Golf is currently our #1 suggested priority list. And the Nature Center project is #3 of the 4.
Yvonne, I think it's time.
All right, I can jump in here and make the motion that this commission vote on our approval or consideration by City Council of the following 2 projects, the golf course and the Nature Center. You can write it out any way that you need to write it out, Chris, to make it look good.
That sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any negative nays? All right, it's approved.
Chris, just out of curiosity, without identifying it, you mentioned 4 priorities. How many ideas were there?
I think the starter list was like 100 long, but it was literally just all the projects, right? So we started with all the projects, and then it's whittled down into like what meets the current legislation, and then what has money, what doesn't, what's a higher priority just based on current climate, et cetera.
Okay.
And Chris, is there a pot of money that, if you look at all 4 projects combined, is there any kind of criteria about that? I mean, I know there's a pot of money at TDA, but in terms of the city's request, is there any kind of criteria along that line?
You mean on the city side?
Yeah.
Or on the city side? No. Initially, we were trying to only look at projects that were previously funded,
Okay.
which is the case with 3 of the 4, Asheville Muni Golf being the exception that did not have any previous funding allocated for it for this coming fiscal year.
Okay.
That one kind of rose to the top, mostly because of the new operator situation where we've got somebody going out and pretty much nobody wants to come in unless there's some type of improvements made there. And so we're going to get into a really sticky situation if we can't figure out a way to bring that level back up. If it's not all the way to perfect, just out of the bottom, right? Like get it back up a little bit to have some way for an operator to realistically make money while they're operating that course.
Yeah.
Chris, are the other 2 projects that are priority about what? Any idea how much they'll be asking for?
I don't have the final numbers, but potentially a greenway in the neighborhood of $2 million, or a neighborhood, I said, excuse me, a greenway project in the neighborhood of $2 million for the grant request portion for a total project of around 6. And then the streetscape project is a total of a $14 million project that includes some state and federal funds, I believe. And the request would be around $3 million on the TDA side.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chris, what's the status of the stadium up behind the baseball field?
Memorial Stadium?
Yeah.
Council approved a plan for a capital project there. I want to say in one of the April meetings for around $4.4 million to include a track. I'm not sure if Councilmember Mosley's still on the call. She might be able to speak to that.
Sure, I'm here. I believe the final allocation was around, 4.4 million, including really what was planned and considered when the 2016 bond was put on the ballot and approved. So it will include upgrades to the field, concession stand, also improvements to the area in the back that sits to the back that is Mountainside Park. So it'll be the park, the track, the field, concessions, and I believe new bathrooms.
I'm just curious because it seemed like it was around the first of the year, there was some heavy discussion about destroying some of the infrastructure that we made with the surface of the.
So what I will say, there had been a long-standing conversation dating back to before the bond in 2016 with the members of the surrounding neighborhoods in particular. And some of the renderings included a track, and that was identified early on as the major gap in all parks and recreation facilities throughout the city, and Memorial Stadium is the only location that had topography such that a track could go there. So there had been a track there. And there's also significant historical consideration that was given. And the removal of the track happened without significant consultation with the community. They were promised the track. The turf went down and it did not include a track. And the community made their voice heard, and we ended up giving what was promised in the first place.
Okay, if I'm hearing you right, we've invested taxpayers' dollars in the turf that's now laying are already down, and we're going to take that away for the track. Am I right?
Well, here's my thought on that. Actually, I'll go ahead and say it was a mistake, and ARPA funds will be used to correct that mistake. So my understanding is it would not come at an additional local taxpayer expense. The budgeted amount for Memorial Stadium and McCormick Field was, in fact, in the $4 million range.
Okay. All right.
The budgeted amount from the proceeds taken in from, I want to say, and I believe I'm getting close, but I believe for Parks and Rec, so there were 3 bonds. It was affordable housing, Parks and Rec, and transportation. And I believe the amount that came through for Parks and Rec was around 17 million. And of those 17 million, 4 point something was budgeted for Memorial Stadium. So we're back at the same number that was originally considered, and ARPA funds will be used to make up the difference. Is that clear as mud?
Clear. That's clear as mud as usual. But the thing is that what I'm trying to do is try to think it through to return on investment of how that becomes a asset for our sports commission, and it comes to where there's some return, financial return on investment through use.
Well, I will go ahead and say so, and this is a tricky situation because to the community members, that's a neighborhood park, right? So I don't know that we discuss the return on investment when we're talking about maintenance of Grove Park on Charlotte Street. So we're weighing the two interests because for the community, that was especially the historical significance is that it used to be the field for the Stevens Lee High School. It was also at a point where Asheville High played their football games. And when it was in the midst of what was a Black neighborhood, the reason these repairs were so costly was they hadn't been done since the 80s. And finally, the community is getting what was promised to them for over 4 decades now. So as far as the return on the investment, the return on investment is doing what we said we were going to do and looking out for a set of community members that has been for a long time underserved. So that community wanted, and there are also sports leagues that use the facility.
Well, I just would like to hear from the Sports Commission, if we could, as to what future opportunity that this remodeling or redoing is going to be present to the community as to our, not only to our revenue, but also to the issues that that facility up there represents to the community, to the parking, to the visitors, just to try to find the places. Sometimes if you don't know where it's at, it isn't on the main drag of anything. It's back in in our community. So these are all issues that I just kind of deal with in the back of my head and say, where's our return on investment financially?
You know, it's interesting to me listening to this is if you took away the name, you could just put Muni in there. Neighborhood, historic, repairs needed since, forever. The value to the community, where it's located, all of those things match, what I think Antoinette is saying that the city is trying to do is to make the fairness of it all, so to speak, as well as the benefit to the community, as well as visitors. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, the similarities, you know.
If I could just speak on behalf of the Sports Commission. Is it? Oh,
Yep.
Sorry. Google's giving me a weird message. It says you have your hand raised, and it sounds like you're talking. First of all, I did meet with Councilmember Mosley and Renee White. It was probably one of the coldest days that we had an hour-long outdoor meeting, and I feel really good in terms of knowing that, it is that park. I learned a lot of history that day. And so from the Sports Commission standpoint, we also have we are not only economic development, we're also community focused, community health and wellness focused. And this will give a great place for the community in that area, not just that area. I mean, anyone in Asheville will have the opportunity to go out and walk. I hope to see the park renditions that it returns to a more of a family-friendly park, and some picnic shelters and things that, because that's been a really center of that.
He just got frozen.
You went out.
I think we lost him.
Well, while that unfreezes, Donna, if I may, I would like to commend Councilmember Mosley for just sticking with these meetings, being here and providing all this great information. I know the commissions are under review. We are supposed to be providing feedback to the city, but for citizens who have a particular interest in a particular operation of the city, it is so great to have a council member available to inform us, to answer our questions, add perspective, have the numbers there. So Councilmember Mosley, I just want to thank you for all this great information you're providing us on this commission. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I second that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Maybe along that line, and I'm sorry because I missed the last meeting, but in terms of McCormick Field at this point in time, I heard a big number in terms of what we were getting pushed to do, but then there was a part of the Parks and Rec funding that was McCormick Field. Where do we stand on that at this point in time, and kind of our relationship to that whole project?
So McCormick Field didn't have any Parks and Rec funding with it. I think you're thinking of the Memorial Stadium conversation we were just having.
Okay. I thought I heard McCormick Field, but okay,
So
maybe not. Okay.
McCormick does have significant needs. The current estimate's right in the neighborhood of $30 million. We're not approaching the product development fund this cycle with the project. One, because we don't have a match, and two, we don't have a good enough plan at the moment. But there is a pathway that I'd like us to explore, and we're going to try to work down that path. It's how the River Arts District, Greenway, and some other transportation portions came together back in, I want to say, 2018 or 19. It's called the Major Works Pathway, which is outside of the application cycle for Product Development Fund. Because McCormick Fields, it's a bigger conversation. The county has to be at the table, the city has to be there, the TDA has to be there, and really the state should be at the table too for that project. It's so big and with what it is, because the city just can't take that on our own 50-50. I mean, even if the TDA did match us 50%, we're still talking $15 million, which is not super realistic for the city to come up with that quickly.
That's helpful. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Any other discussion on this? Or any of the other things that we've talked about today? I'd like to thank all the presenters. I really appreciate your time, and especially your ideas and your plans for the future. It's pretty amazing.
Donna, now that Demp's back, we can hear from the Sports Commission.
Oh, Demp, you back?
I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
It's one of those things in the hotel where your timeout on the internet just happens to happen during your conversation. So first of all, we support the plan for Memorial Stadium and have been in contact and worked with not only Councilmember Mosley, but Renee White from the neighborhood, and then, of course, Deborah Campbell and Dee Tyrell from Parks and Rec. So I hope that it lives up to the standards that I hope that the neighborhood gets what they've deserved for many years. And it was very informative to hear, especially Renee, her discussion and her feelings and the neighborhood feelings. And I learned a lot that day. So thank you for Antoinette for setting that up and allowing us to be there. Do you want me to go ahead and give my quick report?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. So how do you share on here?
Excuse me?
There's a little square with an upward facing arrow.
So I'm trying to show. Can you see that?
No? Yes.
Yeah.
You can see it? I just kind of wanted to go through some unique information for the Billie Jean King Cup. So as you know, when Chris and I go out and recruit an event, we try to make sure that a sporting event that we are having an event which has a community impact as much as it does the recognition impact. So just to kind of give you some interesting numbers, our Kids Day, which was spring break with Asheville Parks and Recs, that was the Monfort and the Stevens Lee Center. Also, there was also a group with the YMCA who were working with Buncombe County Schools. So we had 300 kids on Wednesday at the spring break camps at Rabbit Rabbit. The most interesting thing is if you know Ron Freeman, to hear Ron Freeman talk about the handing out pizza and children coming back and asking if it was okay to get a second piece of pizza, and it just was a great event. Wednesday was a total really busy day. We had also a junior circuit event at Aston Park, at Adults in a Social at Rabbit Rabbit. On Thursday, we had middle school play day, high school play day, abilities tennis, and wheelchair tennis. And if you have never seen wheelchair tennis, you really need to see it. It was really good. We had tennis in the streets by Grove Arcade. We had junior high performance camp. And then one of the areas that we have really struggled in the past was our LGBTQ branch. We had 118 members there, and we had 118. The first time we had 12. Pax Tavern. The second time we had 20 at the Jolly Beer Garden. But this actually sold out before we had pre-sales of over 100 before we even put it on sale to the public. Tina Madison White, Rachel Muir from UNC Asheville did an incredible job. Everyone got a copy of the Billie Jean King book, and it was just a really good event. I do want to go back and kind of just make a reference on, so when you look at the events, especially the Saturday events that were moved out of Aston Park. So most all of these events, with the exception of the junior LGBTQ diversity branch, were planned to be at Aston Park to showcase one of our best facilities. We had to make a hard decision that we would move those events and we paid rent for events at the ARC downtown. Also there was one other event that's missing on here. Basically our Friday and Saturday events could not be at Aston Park because of the homeless, feeding of the homeless. And it is a situation where it can get volatile very quick. And we've had so many issues that have been documented at Aston Park that we just felt like that there was we wanted to put Asheville in the best light, and we had to work around that. So our total impact is about 665, mostly children in the community participated in community events over the week. Kind of an interesting, some of you have worked with our transportation. We ran 3 team vans. We had also 2 vans for the wheelchair team. We did a total of, we had a total of 64 individuals who needed 45 airport runs. So we worked well with BMW of Asheville and also Enterprise to make all of that work. One of the unknown stories or untold stories of the week was we were notified about 3 days before the teams were to arrive that the Ukrainian players were all in Charleston and we needed to help get them to Asheville. And we could not find a charter company. And so if you know Fred Park and Rusty Sampson, they actually took 2 of the team vans, went to Charleston and drove the Ukrainian team, their captain, some of their family members, and an entire cargo van full of luggage back to Asheville. So we try to do what it takes to make the event successful. And you can see our Sunday morning, our first departures were at 4:15. 21 different individuals had to be at Asheville Airport before 6 a.m. So a good credit to the people that did that. And then on Monday, I started the first 4:15 a.m. run, and we had some just, really good. Overall, I think really would like to compliment our national anthem singers, Lyric and Brian Tribby, who did the U.S. national anthem, but Eula, who did she's a member of one of our churches here in the Asheville area, and she did an incredible job with the Ukrainian national anthem, and she is Ukrainian, but she has never sung their national anthem prior to practice on Thursday night. She did an incredible job, and I think our community as a whole really came together for this event. It felt right, and then the Ukrainians battled back on day 2, and my only thought was, this feels really good. It's very competitive. But if the U.S. team loses for the second time in this building, they're not coming back. So you kind of had to, I'll take that down. You kind of had to root for the U.S. when it got to the point of that point. Just a couple other things. We're doing settlements with the SoCon, already planning for next year. Planning for the Asheville Championship. We've got a meeting on May 17th. And then I'm looking forward to an announcement in August of the teams for not only this year, but for 23. And then our grapple tournament is just bouncing off the walls. I mean, we're getting teams from all over the state of North Carolina who are seeing that our teams are going in and being really prepared for the state championship and the number of state champions that we have out of our event. So that's great. And then it looks like Chris and I are working on getting contracts out, but it looks like Gala Gymnastics will be back on board for January. So lot of sorry, I'm not really proficient in Google Meets. A lot of great things. I'm in Fort Worth right now attending Sports ETA, which is our national convention, and I've already had 3 different meetings this morning with event planners. So we're excited to be continuing to roll along, and it's all good. So great great couple of months. We'll be working on the Skyview Golf Tournament right now. So everybody says, what's next? Skyview is next, along with some other exciting events that are, we have a lot of lacrosse, and we're actually doing flag football for the first time. So some different things in our wheel. So thank you for letting me come on late and present. But I thought some of those numbers were really interesting, and I just appreciate everything. And Antoinette, I would just like to say, Chris and his staff were incredible. So please make sure that that is passed up the line of what a great job that they did to, as always, to get the facility ready and work with the rights holders. So thank you.
I attended, as perhaps many of you did, the event, and what I came out of it, I mean, there was a lot of amazing things, but the most amazing was that people cheered equally as hard for the Ukrainians as they did the Americans. And to me, that was Asheville. That is, we support everybody. And it was really amazing. Now, I have to admit, they did get more standing ovations when they came in, which was well-deserved for all that they're going through. But I was so proud of our city for reacting the way they did. So good job, Demp. I was there. I had a just great job. I was there at the airport, too.
You were. Thank you. You were there on the busy day, actually. We got to the point where, and Yvonne did this back in 19, I think, we had to have volunteers at the airport to help gather individuals and get them to the cars. It was, there's a lot of logistics into this event, both on Chris's side and on our side, that you guys probably will never know about. And that's good, because you don't know that some of the issues we go through either. So.
One of the cute things that happens was my shift ended, but the Ukrainian coach was coming in. I said, I'll stay and help you. I want to meet this person. And,
they were incredibly grateful for everything that was done for them in Asheville, getting to Asheville. And to be honest, the captain, we even helped her get to Atlanta. So, it was
There's a lot
week.
that goes into these events, as there are all the events that each of you do, and we appreciate your time and efforts and all the behind the scenes things we don't see. We know they go on, and we appreciate the fact that we don't see them. Chris, do you have anything else?
I'd like
to make a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Yvonne.
Yeah, a real quick one to thank Chris and Deb and that Ukrainian team for even showing up and giving Asheville the actual time to show that here in the mountains in Western North Carolina, we take the time to care for all people in the world. And we are part of such a large picture. But we had a national opportunity to bring Asheville through television and through these sports as an identity of inclusiveness and love that only can be done because of the work that Deb and Chris and all Chris's curl and the support of our city. It's amazing, and it makes me feel so proud to be part of this commission. Thank you.
John, did you have something?
Yeah, Chris, I'm assuming I was not able to make it, but I'm assuming the numbers were down for the matches. This was also Easter weekend, which I'm sure was a contributing factor. I know it was in our household, but how were the organizers of the event feeling? Do they understand the situation?
Yeah, so actually, fun fact, when we confirmed this event, it was actually supposed to be in February. And after the confirmation, the International Tennis Federation changed the dates on all of the countries to Easter weekend. So it was kind of a scramble drill. We actually had to move an event from the arena that we had booked up to the Sherrill Center just to be able to host the event. And yeah, we were fighting two religions on Friday with the Easter weekend going on. COVID, we were still coming in and out of COVID and still are to some extent. And the Charleston WTA event was actually the weekend prior down at Daniel Island. And we had a lot of crossover in the past years with ticket buyers there. So numbers were down. Not significant, but not huge. I think we were down somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30% on ticket sales. But in the end, with the United States Tennis Association, it's not about selling tickets and making money. It's about like the community impact and growing the sport of tennis. So this is definitely one of those events where the ancillary events put on throughout the community by Parks and Rec and by Sports Commission and by the volunteer organizations are more of the reason that they come back, is because we're spreading the word about tennis. We're teaching kids and giving them the opportunity to play tennis that haven't before. And the volunteer pool, I think we had like 130 volunteers here. They did a Davis Cup in Reno back in March with 11. So the community support really is what keeps bringing the USTA back. I think it'll be a couple years before we bid again, just to give the market some time, but I have a feeling we'll host again someday.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and Chris, I'd be remiss. You did mention, but I don't think we mentioned the Asheville Tennis Association and Jeff Joyce and all of his and Debbie Southern's incredible work. Them and North Carolina USA Tennis just were rock stars as always. Thank you.
Any other comments? Chris, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just to hit on some of the old business and new business items, if you're good with that.
Yep, sure.
Yep. All right, so old business, we've had some asks pretty much every meeting about when in-person commission meetings will return. It looks like the target is July for advisory boards to be back in person, which for our board typically would mean August, as we typically take the July meeting off. So to kind of parlay that into the new business item, if you look in the agenda, there's a link to the FY 22-23 meeting calendar. Really, this is the opportunity, and we don't have to decide this today, but this can be decided in June as well. But typically we like set a meeting schedule for the year, so that way it's set and in place. Because quite often we actually have to move one or two meetings because of holidays. This year, we only have one meeting that falls right on a holiday, which is the September meeting falls the day after Labor Day. But oftentimes our meeting lands on Election Day, for example. But it's not happening in November this year. So something to look at, review, consider, and then probably vote on and approve in the June meeting, so we can have a set calendar for 22 to 23.
But Chris, while you look into the future, where are we on the city's reevaluation of the whole commission situation?
Oh boy, I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I know it's a process that's ongoing, and there's a plan to present more info to council here in the very near future, but I don't actually know a lot of details on that right now.
Okay. Chris, when will our next meeting be? What's the date of it? June the...
Our next meeting is June 7th at noon, and it is virtual.
All right. If there's no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Adjourn. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate